Danish.
Okay.
I don't really care about tests. I check the results, blah, blah, blah.
I got
They say Scandinavia doesn't always give you sunshine, but it gives you something far more valuable. Free education, no tuition fees, and equal access for everyone. Across the Nordic countries, schools are not just places where you learn math or grammar. They are where children grow into citizens. And Denmark has become a symbol of this approach, often topping the charts in global education rankings. But what lies behind the reputation? So, is the Danish school system really as ideal as it sounds? Or are there any sort of cracks beneath the surface? To find out, I spoke with a teacher and a mom who live it every day, to understand not just how the system works, but how does it feel to grow up and raise a child here. And here is what they told me.
Yeah. So I think it's, well, let me first explain how the grades are.
Yeah, okay.
Because in the school where I work, it's called Folkeskole. So the children enter when they are 6 years old. The year they turn 6, they start school.
Before, it's a kindergarten?
It's voluntary. If the parents are working, the kids can go to like kindergarten, daycare, but it's not like a school.
Oh yeah.
It's just, well, there are things they have to learn and stuff, but it's not reading and math. It's more like playing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So when the kid is 6, they start school, and they go in the same school from the age of 6 until 16. So for 10 years, it's in the same school. So it's not
same building as well. Okay.
So it's not like primary, secondary. It's just 10
the
years
same.
in this same school. And so I teach in this kind of school that the kids are between 6 and 16. And then after that, they can go to high school and other levels.
How do you structure the educational path for a student in this? I mean, from 6 to 16, you said?
From 6 to 16.
So 10 years.
Yeah. So of course, when the kids are small, the teaching is different than when they are older. With the little ones, it's more practical. They have stuff in their hands when they do math. They have little blocks or things that they like put together in piles. So it's like practical work. And the older they get, the more theoretical. There are some, of course, written down rules of what more or less the kids have to learn. But there's also a lot of freedom for each teacher to decide. So you have to cover, for example, the very early age of in history. But it could be the Stone Age, it could be Iron Age. I mean, it's not written down very specific.
The government or any sort of minister dedicated to instruction and education don't decide any sort of, okay, you have to cover this sort of fields and you have to be aligned or not. Is it like that?
Right now, actually, it's changing because there have been too many written down rules of what you have to cover. So in these years, the government is trying to reduce the...
Give you more power.
Yes, more power to the teachers and more freedom to decide what subjects to teach and how to teach them. And well, not subjects, because of course there are subjects.
Yeah, sure, of course. But it's all up to you, or sometimes, how could I say, also the students or the family of the students may have some voice, just trying to, give some suggestion. I would like to explore this one or that one. I don't know.
I think what characterizes the Danish educational system is that we try to be very democratic. So we try to involve the kids in their school life. So it's not just the teacher coming and saying, we have to do this and that. So you look at the kids and what group do I have? Are they all very interested in Vikings? So let's discuss Vikings. So it can change from one group to another.
Basically, each year could be different than the other one.
And my kids' school life could be different than your kids because even though they're in the same grade, they will not cover exactly the same.
Okay, good. There are some complainings with the family or not here?
Yeah, I think it's a symptom of this time that we're living in, that the parents listen very much to their kids. So if the kid comes home and says, my teacher did a bad thing, they trust the kid and they don't ask the teacher, what happened. They just
So there's a
call
miscommunication.
Yeah.
You perceive it.
And the children maybe have too much power sometimes, because all the children now in Denmark are like dream kids. We really want a kid. Now we have a kid. He's the most important thing in our life. So he cannot be sad. He cannot have any trouble. He cannot have any hard times. We have to take away everything that's difficult. So the parents try to, I don't know if you know the term curling parent.
Curling? No.
The sport curling, do you know that? It's on ice.
Oh, it's curling. Yeah, got
so
it.
we call it curling parents because they sweep, they
sweep.
so
Okay, got it.
The path for the child will be very smooth. I think even after COVID, there have been some more troubles with kids that when they were out of school for so long, it was hard for them to come back. So we have a quite huge problem with kids who don't go to school. And they just stay home.
Just because you mentioned the COVID, there are some sort of education that are not one-on-one or, I mean, to the class, but remotely.
Recently in a magazine about teaching that there are, of course, we have the public school system, which is the biggest. And there is also private schools. And there are some private schools that have come in recent years that are online. So pure online.
Also for the primary school?
Also, yeah.
Is it working or?
They have a big success. What I read was that they have more and more students coming to their school.
How about the tests? Let's say during these 10 years, there are some barriers. I mean, if you don't pass some, let's say, amount of tests, or you had a bad rate from a year to another, you stay in the same class and you are not able to follow the other students in the next grade or whatever.
Yeah, we have some tests, but not that many. When I was a kid, we didn't have any tests until the very end of the 10 years. We had some exams, but during the 10 years, we never had any tests.
Never? About any type of subjects or what?
No, never. Not
so
any
how
tests.
do
you evaluate the students in the everyday teaching? In the teaching involves the kids very much in talking. So if you have English class, it's not just you writing, you also interact with the teacher. And in that way, the teacher evaluates where is the level of this student. We had a reform of the school system maybe 10 years ago. And in that reform, they introduced a lot of tests. So in the past 10 years, there have been a lot of tests. And this has been criticized for being too many tests.
Too many?
Yeah.
How many, more or less, in a year?
Maybe twice in each subject. In Danish,
twice in each
math.
subject. How do you evaluate the students in this type of tests? I mean,
so they are written tests.
With
mostly
multiple choice?
Except if it's math, maybe you...
sure.
Yeah, it's different.
Of course.
So now they're taking out some of the tests.
They're starting to do the reverse path?
Now they're going back to having fewer tests. So fewer written down goals and fewer tests. All of the tests are like online. So you just, the kid logs on and do the test and the result comes out. So the teacher doesn't have to correct them. In these 10 years of school, it's not possible to fail. There is not a test that you can... You can always pass to the next year and the next year.
I see.
Even though you have a low level. So some kids have a high level and some kids have a very low level. And it's really the responsibility of the teacher to teach this level and this level at this... in the same class. So very rarely, but not very often, a kid stays in 1 year for an extra. But mostly it's not about the subjects. It's more if the child is immature.
I heard someone talking in the same matter that told me, probably teacher here are more involved to, try not to elevate as much the level of the higher students, the best students, but to recover those ones that are from the very deep level.
I think that can be a problem that the very clever or bright students, they're not challenged enough.
They're not too much involved.
Because you sort of reach for the lowest.
There are some sort of different evaluation for the test that you mentioned before. I mean, there are some grades, or there are some, I don't know, use number, use letter.
There are some grades.
How about the...
in the test for the youngest kids,
Yeah.
They just get like the number. You had 57% correct.
Okay.
Or you had, so it's not like a grade A, B, C or
Yeah.
number. But when the kids are 13, like in the last 3 years, they start getting grades. But before that, they don't get grades.
Okay.
So they just get told, you did very well, you did not so well.
Just encouraging to do better, and in the final test,
the final exams, when the kids have
at 16.
Yeah, 16. There are exams. Some are written and some are oral.
Okay.
And they are in the not all the subjects, but the main subjects. So it would be Danish, written and oral. Would be math, English, German, history.
Also German. Okay.
German, yes, as well.
For everyone.
Yes, for everyone.
And if someone may wants to come here for whatever reason, I mean, they are a foreigner family with some kids, and those kids for sure don't know any words of Danish. How do they may include them to the scholar system?
The kids can either go to the regular normal school, or there are some international schools where the language is English. But if they want to enter in the normal school, they have to learning Danish pretty fast.
Okay.
So they enter in the normal group, and then they have some extra help, a few hours a day or a week, where they get extra Danish lessons.
In Denmark, education isn't just about textbooks or exams. It's more like a journey of personal growth and self-discovery. Imagine a place where teenagers, aged 14 to 18, choose to spend a year living away from home. Not for grades, but to explore their passion, build independence, and form lifelong friendships. Welcome to the world of Efterskole, a uniquely Danish boarding school experience that blends academics with personal development. But the journey doesn't stop there. For young adults seeking deeper self-understanding and a break from traditional education, there is the Højskole, a folk high school. Here, students over 17 immerse themselves in subjects ranging from philosophy to art, without the pressure of exams or grades. It's about learning for life's sake, embracing community and discovering one's place in the world. But can a system like this truly prepare students for the real world? Or is it like an idealistic detour that only works in a country like Denmark? So is it something that the rest of the world should admire or rethink?
Basically from the very beginning to each year of your educational studies, and it's the SU system. How could you describe it very simply in few words?
So the SU system is economical support for students. So when a child turns 18, so you just make an application and you get it.
It's not provided, you have to apply.
You have to apply, And when you're in high school, you can have it. You can get the SU, but the amount you get depends on your parents' income.
Okay.
So if your parents earn a lot of money, you get
for
less.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
But then when you enter university, everybody gets the same.
Just this differentiation is just for the higher school period.
Yeah, because I think it's the thought is that in high school you live with your parents.
Oh yeah.
So if they make a lot of money, they can support you. But in university, most people go away and live on their own. When you're under 18, the parents get economic support for each child. When the child turns 18, the economic support for the parents stops.
Okay.
So it changes and goes to the child itself instead.
In Denmark, support for education doesn't end when you turn 18. It actually begins a new chapter. Once students finish compulsory school and move on to the upper secondary education or university, they become eligible for SU, the Danish Students' Grant. SU is a monthly financial support provided by the government to help students cover their living expenses while studying full-time. It's not a loan, and no, it doesn't have to be paid back. And while the amount varies depending on whether the student lives at home or independently, the goal is the same. Make sure financial barriers don't stop anyone from continuing their education. In Denmark, being a full-time student is treated like a full-time responsibility, and it comes with real support.
When you go to primary school and the high school, the books are free. I mean, you just borrow them from the school.
Okay, so there is a sort of a library. Where
yeah.
You, okay.
So, they just
so you don't have to.
lend you the
Basically,
books.
no one here
It's
anything.
supposed to be free. The school
Okay.
system is supposed to be free. Until you start university, you have to buy your own books. But
Oh,
until
yeah, I
then,
see.
it's supposed to be free.
Okay.
So the only thing that could cost some money is excursion.
In Denmark, support for education starts long before university. Families receive tax-free financial support from the government for each child under 18. This system, known as the Child and Youth Benefit, helps cover everyday costs from clothing and school materials to childcare. The amount adjusts based on the child's age and the parent's income, making it a flexible tool to promote equal opportunities from an early age. It's one of the main ways that Denmark invests not just in education, but in the well-being of their child. And it's part of what makes growing up in Denmark feel a little more supportive.
What strikes many foreigners that come here is that the schools, the kids can seem to be not very educated, or they could seem rude.
Okay.
Or maybe disrespectful. In some other countries, the teachers have a lot of respect just for being the teacher.
Yeah,
So you have to show respect just because he's the teacher.
Yeah.
But here it can be, some teachers don't have respect from the kids.
It's something recent, or it's something that happened from the very beginning of your traditions?
Earlier I mentioned that the school system is democratic, so the kids are very involved.
Yeah.
And also the kids and the teacher are more equal. The way we teach is not always just the teacher talking. It can also be the kids working on their own projects, trying to be active in the process.
Okay, so just exploring by themselves.
Yeah, it could be like that.
And this is something that, based on what you said before, something that it could be seen by not professional, by foreigner people.
I think if you enter the classroom, you would think, what is going on? Because the kids are not just sitting by the tables, they can be walking, some sitting on the floor, some are working here, some are going to the library. So it could seem messy.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's not.
Okay.
It's not.
So just for another perspective.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's just a different way of having a school and a different views of how do you learn.
Foreigner kids may experience some sort of difficulties or issues to, try to learn with this sort of method.
I have, in one of the schools I used to work at, some of the kids were born in Denmark, but their parents came from other backgrounds.
Okay.
So the parents could sometimes question, like, why are you working like this? And why don't they just sit and write? And why do they have to be active? And so they didn't know this kind of the way of teaching. So they could think that the teacher is not doing it right.
It was just a phase. At some point they realized, my kids is learning for real, or it's just something that's
it could be a phase. So then by time they would realize and get used to the...
So not complaining anymore, I mean.
No, not really complaining, just being like surprised, astonished, or just wondering, why is it like this?
So how do they prepare for the primary school?
Okay. Because what I've heard from foreign parents that put their children in kindergarten is also that why don't they learn anything? Because in kindergarten they play and they have a group session where they listen to a book, or the adults talk to them about some subject. But it's not like school.
So just more socializing
and learning how to play with your friends. If you have that toy and I want that toy, how can we
manage the situation?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. And then they learn how to be independent for their age. I mean, if they are 5, they shouldn't be very independent, but they learn how to put their own clothes on, how to drink, eat by themselves.
So do you find any sort of difficulties from the transition?
No, I don't think it's for the kids, it's not a very difficult transition. But another thing that foreign parents also are sometimes struck by in the kindergarten is that the kids are outside very much. So even if it snows or rains, they go outside to play. And some parents are like, it's not good for them, they will get sick. But here we believe it's good for the kids to come outside.
We don't talk about homework?
Each kid gets a computer. Well, maybe you have some books that you have to write in. Yeah. But like textbooks.
How about the frequency? Covered by a ton of homeworks, or?
No, I think in general, the kids in the Danish school systems don't have a lot of homework. Maybe when they turn 14, 15, they start having more. But
14, 15? Okay, so the
13,
last years.
14, in the last maybe 3
Okay.
years, they would start to have more homework. But it's not the same for all groups. It could be one teacher believes homework is good, another teacher believes
Oh yeah, I
homework
see.
doesn't help my kids.
And the same is for study.
Yeah, sometimes you have to also read
Okay.
some things and study, but I think mostly it's like write a Danish essay or do this
Okay.
math work.
Yeah.
It's not very often like read these 5 pages about history. In high school, they start to more study, like study some pages in the book to get knowledge. And also in the later, from the second half of the primary school, they start more and more study, but mostly in school and not at home for homework.
Okay, so they're trying to reduce the effort when at home and try to maximize as possible when school, right? Okay.
In Denmark, early childhood education is built on a simple but powerful idea. Children learn best when they feel free to explore. Kindergartens welcome children from age 3 to 6 and focus not on formal academic, but on play, creativity and independence. It's not that rare that days are spent outdoors, in parks, forests, or natural playgrounds. The goal isn't to prepare the kids for tests, it's to help them become curious, confident human beings. And in many of these schools, there is a strong influence from the Reggio Emilia approach, a pedagogical philosophy born in Italy. This method sees children as capable, resourceful, and full of potential. Learning is child-led, guided by their interests, not rigid curriculums. Classrooms are treated as a third teacher, thoughtfully designed spaces that invite exploration. Teachers don't dictate, they observe, support, and grow alongside the children. Art, movement, story, and social interaction are all considered languages of learning, and parents are actively involved, not just as observers, but as partners in educational journey. It's a model that values not only what a child knows, but who they are becoming.
I want to explore the differences between your choice, between the international school and the state school. Especially because I know that you are a Danish family, so it's quite uncommon, probably, the fact that you choose one solution rather than probably the standard one.
Well, first off, we do have the standard school and we do have this international school, but in Denmark we also have something called a free school. So we have a very long tradition going back that you can choose freely what kind of school you want. So there are different schools and they're not private schools. They're not like snobby overclass, anything like that. It's very based on creativity, or some might have like a Christian worldview or something like that. So in this area in particular, we have 4 different kinds of schools we could choose between. I think it depends very much of what you want to get out of it. Because for us as a Danish couple, we always like to travel a lot. We would like to take a year or a year and a half somewhere at some point, if possible. And because we like to travel, we like for Max to have that international view of the world. I think just raising him to not see skin color as much and just be in that environment where it's normal.
In Denmark, most children attend a local public school, or Folkeskole. It's free, state-funded, and open to everyone, regardless of background or nationality. On the other hand, international schools are privately run and follow foreign curricula, like the British system, the American system, or the international programs. These schools are often chosen by expat families or Danes planning to live abroad, because they offer instruction in English and an international transferable education. So while public schools reflect Danish values and local integration, international schools offer a more mobile, cross-border learning experience.
Previously you mentioned about the 2 differences between the free school and the regular one here in Denmark. Do they have the same kind of length?
The main difference is that the days are longer at the international school than the Danish school system.
Okay.
In the Danish school system, you typically get to school around 8, but it's very rare to stay past 2.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and especially with smaller kids, they would usually get off around 12 or 1 and then gradually get up. Whereas Max doesn't get off from school until 3. So definitely longer days. The pro of the state school is definitely, I think in Denmark, they're very creative. Because creativity and creating stuff like Danish design and Lego and everything is very integrated in our culture. The teaching might look different than in a very academic school, but kids still learn. So it's just like
Yeah.
wider. It has a lot more focus on shaping the whole person, learning to think rather than knowing the right answers to a lot of things, if that makes sense. Like that's the general thing. Whereas the international school is definitely more academic. You definitely, I think, end up at a higher level when you're in the international school, but then you get something else if you choose the Danish school. That is my view, I would say, because the Danish schools are in general very good at raising humans, if that makes sense.
Got it.
Yeah.
Regarding the method that you said is more academic in international school, if you could give an overview of the subjects or the field that they are most into for, I don't know, for sure there are math, there are English, but which are the other subjects that they study?
I think the subjects are pretty much the same, but it's the level of intensity. I think more like the speeder is like is down more on the international school. You go quicker through stuff. You expect more of students faster. So probably like reading levels and stuff will go up quicker. But there has been some studies that the Danish teacher over there told me that I think it's by like MYP, it's kind of leveled out. So the Danish kids, they start reading slower. They take more time doing it. It's not as rushed, and they have probably more playtime as well. But then it kind of evens out at some point, because once you learn to read, you learn to read. So so then just because the kids on the international schools start reading that much faster, they're able to read texts about topics on their own. Whereas in the Danish schools, they might do like do a theme week at school about a topic or do different things. But I feel like there's definitely more integration between the subjects in the Danish schools, and it's more creative, I would say. That is something that I miss. And we know that we're going to put him in the Danish Efterskole. Do you know that concept?
Yeah, Afterskole and the Højskole. These are two different things for...
It's different things because it's different age groups. But they're in some way kind of built on the same thing. But in Denmark, we have this concept of Efterskole. So it's a little bit like boarding school. You go there, you live there, but it's only for the 9th and 10th grade.
So it means for what age?
When you're like 15 probably. 15, 16.
So just for 1 year.
You can go 1, you can go 2. Your parents do have to pay, so this is self-paid. You pay according to how much money you make. But they're kind of this very nice place where you can send your kids when they're really becoming teenagers. You might need a little break from them. I went for 2 years. My husband went for 1. And you get away from your parents. You stop the fighting and the intensity a little bit. You get to live with other students. You get to become more responsible, and you get to explore different things that you can't necessarily do at home. It could also be like sports themed.
I know that.
Like photography or videography or something like that. Movie making, editing, all that stuff. Music is a big. So it's kind of this year where you can go. You have normal school, but then in your free time, you have a lot more going on. You get more independent quicker, and it kind of puts the stress off the relationship with parents. You see them every 3rd week instead of every day. So it's like,
because every weekend they come back?
No.
When they
you
come
stay
back?
There. Depends.
Whatever
but
they want.
I think it's like you have a long weekend once a month or every 3rd weekend. I think we went home every once a month. So like Thursday to Sunday. So you have your kid home 4 days in a month.
Previously, you said that for Afterskole and Højskole, you have to pay. Is it the same for the international? It's all up on you?
We pay.
You pay?
Yeah, the free schools, you pay some. And then this private school, you pay more. So, but it's still not at all as much as if you were in any other country. It's like a 1/3 of the price.
There are different other type of international schools rather than the IB schools?
The IB school has a special focus on how we learn. So they have these different approaches on being like a curious learner or taking an initiative. They have a lot of focus on like different personalities and how we learn, and have a big focus on that. They also have themes that go like, they call them units. So it's like units for like 6 weeks, I think, at a time. Every 4 to 8 weeks, they change to a different unit, and they go through 6 different units in a year.
So each subject adapts to this kind of unit.
Yes, and then,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. So they'll do something regarding that in math and literacy
Okay.
and STEM, and everything will be kind of linked up. And that's another thing that we really like.
If you have to come here in Denmark and apply for the IB school, it works here the same kind of unit that they are learning, and at the same time in other countries it means
They definitely align it somehow.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can move from school to school.
and remain with the same level because you don't
Yeah,
miss anything.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the whole, I think the whole genius about the IB schools is they actually align with each other. I think there are differences still, because they do adapt some to the local environment.
But well, mostly
You can go from one to another.
You've probably heard the terms international school, but you also have to know that not all the international schools are the same. Some follow the British system, others use the American model, but then there are the IB schools. Schools that follow the International Baccalaureate curriculum. The IB is a globally recognized educational framework that focuses on inquiry-based learning, critical thinking, and intercultural understanding. It offers 4 distinct programs, from early years to the final years of secondary education. What makes an IB school unique is that it must be authorized by the International Baccalaureate Organization. It follows strict global standards, regular evaluations, and a consistent teaching philosophy around the world. In other words, all the IB schools are international schools, but not vice versa. So when choosing between the two, it's not just about language or location, it's about what kind of education you believe in.
Yeah.
And regarding the tests, do they have a lot of? Because I know that in the state school there are very few kind of tests until some age.
Yeah, they are doing more testing. When I went to school, they didn't do any testing at all until like 8th grade or something. A score every year, but that was just based on our teachers' evaluations of us.
Okay, yeah.
They do more now. They do more testing, and Danes don't like it at all.
I know.
Yeah.
Why?
We don't like any
Why?
tests because we should just let kids be kids.
Okay.
Yeah, they feel like it puts too much pressure on kids.
Okay.
To like perform too early. They might not be ready for it and stuff. Our kid is ready for it. He's fine. Yeah, so I'd say it just kind of depends on, but they don't have a lot of tests on our school either. I think they have the MAPS tests.
Okay.
And I don't even really know what that is or what it entails.
So
I'm
let's
Danish.
okay.
I don't really care about tests. I check the results, it's
I got
fine,
the point.
but it's
Okay.
not important.
And also the homework, probably. Do they have a lot of homework or?
Depends on the teacher, definitely. We had more in PYP 4 and 5 than we do in PYP 6. And
what is a PRP?
PYP is the year that they're in, so that would be the first and second year.
Okay.
Now he's in 3rd.
Okay.
Yeah, and he has less this year, definitely. A lot of it depends on the teacher and their point of view. I'm not freaking out over it because
No.
I like them to not have more homework because they get home at 3, which to me as a Dane is very late.
It's very late.
So I want him to have some time to
Okay.
relax and play and draw, and we can ride our bikes and we can do that stuff.
Great.
Like the human stuff.
Aalborg University is well known probably for its method. It's called the PBL, problem-based learning. So I don't know if it's something very common for as approach
that could be the
for learning
in
Denmark.
Yeah, because it's very experience based, and it's very like it's not uncommon to like go to the forest with the kids or like go to the beach and find things and touch things and play around with things. Go outside. There's a lot of focus on moving around, exercising, not just exercising, but just like moving your body and how that like stores the knowledge in your head. I love the whole concept. I would also say that if you move to Denmark and want to start your kid in and are considering what the options are, there are big differences in the state schools depending on the area. You can always kind of like apply, I think, to go to a different state school that's slightly further away, because we do have like a free choice of schools in Denmark, but you are assigned to the one that's closest. And the one in our area is really good, but that might not be the case everywhere.
No, yeah.
Because in every school, the school is never better than the leaders.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
it trickles down. If you have a very visionary leader and you take care of your employees and they're happy, then so it very much depends, I think, on the school as well.
You talk about the culture.
Yeah.
For being more integrated with different culture, with different kids from different ethnies or whatever. But about the knowledge, there is something more about any kind of vision for the future, or it's just like doesn't matter.
I have a pretty strong feeling that he's probably going to start his own company and do his own thing,
Okay.
like his parents do. So we just kind of want to equip him as much as we can. And I think we just go with whatever fits best in whatever period of life he's in,
Okay.
if that makes sense. It's probably a little laid back. It's not like we're very conscious of our choice of the international school. It's not the normal thing to do. I think there are 2 kids in his year group of 40 kids that are fully Danish, and then there are a few that's like have a Danish dad or something.
And all of them is just for the same reason, for the cultural reason, or for all the type of...
No.
If you know.
I think it's a lot of, sometimes it can be about the structure. The international school is a bit more structured, where everything in Denmark is very flat. It's not...
Okay.
We don't have a high level of hierarchy in Denmark.
Yeah.
You won't find that anywhere.
Yeah,
we
I
don't
know.
say yes ma'am, yes sir, anywhere to anyone. Maybe to the queen. But that's about it. And I think that's a very big part also of having a strong culture of going to the state schools.
Okay.
Where the person who's the prime minister now went to a state school. And so you meet every kind of person throughout your life. And I really like that philosophy.
Okay.
But it also kind of depends on your kid. Our kid was ready for more challenging stuff, and the structure is good for him compared to the, I think, less structure that would be in a Danish school. So I think you just kind of have to figure out what you want.
Do you experience some couples, families that one of the partner is Danish native, local, I mean Danish, raised and born here, and the other one is foreigner? That do they have to, let's say, complain or argue about the choice for going to an international
No, everyone I've talked to who had that conversation is mostly like pros and cons.
Okay.
It's all pros and cons, and most of them will at some point probably have their kid in the Danish. Maybe not schools. They might have gone to Børnehave, which is like the up till 5-6 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't start learning anything about school until we turn 6 in Denmark. Before that is all play.
Yeah. Okay.
So they'll send their kids to that. So they're feel Danish and then go to the international school, and then they might switch again later on.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like...
So it's possible to go...
Yeah, I know.
To jump from a...
I know a lot of Danish families,
Okay.
and that would probably include us too. They choose not to go the whole way
on
the international school because not the competitive less, but the academic level becomes so high that most Danish families are like, no, they need to do other stuff than school and homework.
After all the stories, comparisons, and insights, one thing is clear. Education is never just about school. It's about values, context, and the future we imagine for our children. Knowing where you're headed, whether you'll stay or move again, can shape what kind of education makes sense for your family. And maybe, instead of searching for the best system, the real challenge is finding the right balance between structure and creativity, between academic pressure and personal growth. What works in one context might not in another. And that's okay, because raising a child isn't about following a universal formula. It's about making thoughtful choices one step at a time.